This is Monday Church with Reverend Montclair. I am Reverend Montclair. I am an interfaith minister, and today is Monday, December 30th. Today I'd like to talk about the new moon. Today is the new moon in Capricorn, and supposedly, for those that follow the moon and moon magic, the new moon is a time to set intentions. And at this time, the end of 2024 and the beginning of 2025, it's a good time to set your intentions for the new year. To that end, I found a list of questions I had made some time ago, and I thought they would be worth contemplating, possibly to ignite your own inquiry of to what kind of intentions you would like to set for the new year. It doesn't matter what you did or did not do in 2024 because the year is almost over. But it will matter a whole lot of what you will and will not do in 2025 to be the kind of person you want to be, to have the kind of life that you would choose for yourself rather than one that was chosen for you by default. This is not a default world unless you allow it to be. So the questions that I have here, the first one on the list says, do you want a united country or a divided one? So we could all easily say, oh, of course, a united one, but what do we do to contribute or to take away from the unity of our own nation? So there are many reasons why we would not understand the choices and the perspectives of other people that live in this same country. But this same country, I mean, what is a country? It's just a territory. It is a landscape with many different ecosystems, many different cultures, many different people. I'm watching a bald eagle fly by that caught my eye as I looked out the window. Representative of our nation, the bald eagle. So here we are. We've chosen a boundary to call ourselves a country, to call ourselves Americans, because that's where I live, in the United States. And in that country, we have so many different values and perspectives and needs, so many unmet needs. So these hidden things in each of us will project outwards of what our choices are, of what we feel that externally will meet our needs. So do we want a united country or a divided one? One way to, if you choose a united country, would be to stop talking about it being divided. And that doesn't mean ignoring the realities. What it means is to stop pointing a finger and saying they're the problem. It means stop saying they're wrong and perhaps instead get curious. Why would they have that perspective that is so different from mine? When you get curious, you can ask questions. And when you ask questions, you can create relationships. When you create relationships, there's the potential for creating some kind of unity, united country. If your choice is you'd rather a divided one, well, you have options there too. You know, there was a civil war many years ago. That was people that decided they were against each other. We have some of that going on here. But we need to ask ourselves who or what is contributing to this disharmony, to the opposition of each other in our country. What is their intention? There's a saying that follow the money. Follow the money. Who profits from dividing the nation? Lots of people do. So that's something to get curious about as well. Who profits from creating division? because a divided country is far easier to conquer. Who wants to conquer and why? What is their profit that they would get from that? And there's a lot of profit to be had in war, in division, in people choosing against their best interests. So that's one of many questions to contemplate. Another one is, do you want more cooperation or more self-righteous anger? It's easy to puff yourself up and say, I'm right and they're wrong, but then you're also creating more of a division. Again, get curious, ask questions, be humble. Be humble in your position, be humble in your perspective. Another question, do you want more abundance for all or more poverty for all? We are really at a, what is it, like the height of inequality in this country. And perhaps there have been other heights or lows, we could call them as well. Certainly when we had slavery legalized in this country was a horrible low. But there are other ways that slavery, or the equivalent of it, has been legalized. One of those is that our great nation has not raised the minimum wage since 2009. That's a long time ago at this point in time, and it's only $7.25 an hour. No one can earn a living on $7.25 an hour, no matter if they worked round the clock. That is poverty, that is slave wages, that is completely unacceptable. These are things that we, the people, need to address in our government. It is not okay to have policies like that endorsed by our federal government, which essentially is the continued validation of slavery. Not in the land of the free, in the home of the brave. That kind of thing should not fly. And I do not use the word should casually. So obviously my perspective is I would prefer more abundance for all rather than more poverty. Do you want fairness and impartiality in our courts or prejudiced decisions? Prejudiced, self-interested decisions. So there we go again with our government tends to treat itself very well with its retirement benefits, with its health care, with its salary increases. Meanwhile, once again, our minimum wage set by the federal government is $7.25 an hour, and we do not have universal health care. We do not have policies in place that help people out of poverty. And that includes the very erroneous decision to set the poverty line at a little more than $15,000 a year per individual. And that doesn't mean families, if you have 4 of you, you multiply that by 4. No, it goes down from there. There's even less of a income that draws the line for the poverty line for families. It does not increase according to the number of people. So the poverty line, which is insane, is used to determine whether or not people are eligible for certain government programs. Now, what's crazy about that as well is that sometimes they're like, oh, you're too low of an income to qualify for a government program. So that tends to be the case, even more so than some of the higher wages that people make not qualifying. They qualify for tax credits, for programs that others that have even more dire need do not. So again, our government is setting a standard to say it's okay to live in extreme poverty. Now, the poverty line also, talks about the United Nations had set a standard for poverty line, meaning can have shelter, clothing, and food, that those are the bare minimums, and water to drink, right? So, but they don't say how much clothing, one outfit, what kind of shelter? Is a tent count as shelter? Or how much food, or what kind of food? Does one hamburger and french fries count as enough food for a day? Water, is it clean? We have a lot of questions we could be asking about these standards. And one is, a statement I will make is that even at twice the $15,000, you're making $30,000. That's still poverty in this country today. $30,000 a year is not enough in this economy to be not still in poverty. Even at $35,000 a year, you are struggling. So it is not 2% of the nation that is in poverty using that metric. It would be much higher. It is not is not an understatement to say, or an overstatement to say, that half of the United States today lives in poverty. Because our mean income, whether it's $69,000 a year or $75,000, I can't remember which one it is this year, is so skewed because we have such a large amount of billionaires in this country and multi-millionaires. Why? Because our tax structure is set up to favor these people with excesses amounts of money. Now, if our mint, our federal mint, where they make the dollars, would punch out a unlimited amount of these dollar bills, we might be okay with having the money hoarders in our country because there would be more to go around, but that's not the way things work. Unfortunately, the money hoarders, who could never spend as much as they have in their lifetimes, are keeping the wealth away from the lower portions of our country. When I say lower portions, lower than the 1%. So we have a huge challenge in this country to right the wrongs, and that is reinstating taxes, fair taxes, for the wealthy. A flat tax wouldn't be a bad idea. And not being able to reduce those taxes with all kinds of creative accounting methods that so many people that are wealthy use today, including the current president-elect that will be sworn into office once again on January 6th. So here's another question. Do you want fairness and impartiality? I already said that. But meanwhile, the prejudiced, self-interested decisions that I spoke about a moment ago are so detrimental to our culture. And we have so many distractions and so many things that keep us from addressing these fundamental issues that it's so important for us to recognize, again, who's profiting from our distraction, who is profiting from us not being willing to stand up and disagree with the rules that we do have on the books? Who's profiting? And can we, will we choose to make a difference in that? All right, on to the real next question, which is, do you want a healthy environment or a sick, dying one? Unfortunately, for those that are in the position of power, have a lot of money, are able to spend it on anything they want, including destroying the environment, because they're only going to live another 20 years, doesn't matter to them, right? Do you want a healthy environment or a sick and dying one? Well, perhaps even if you asked people that generally don't care about such things, if they would prefer one over the other, they might say, yes, sure, a healthy environment, why not? But at what cost? Or at what reduction of their profit? So reducing one's profit, selfish profit, is something that we may need to wrap our minds around the phrase that some use, for the greatest good or for the greater good. And that is, what can we do that would improve our experience as a nation? Not for just some, not for just the rich, not for just some people, meaning like half of the electorate, or the other half, or the others that didn't vote, or those that couldn't vote because they're in prison, because they're homeless, because they are living in a different state and their ballot didn't get counted. There are so many ways that our votes don't count. So how can we overcome this great selfishness that seems to be an underlying thread in our culture? One thing is to recognize that it's fear. That narcissistic child self that's me over everybody else is fear. So if we're going to at least see ourselves clearly, maybe we need to see that we are a very fearful nation. And that's why our military budget is the largest military budget. But not only that, it does make us look very paranoid, not because we're so strong, but because we're so weak. But that's not the only reason we have such a big military budget. It's, again, follow the money. Who is profiting? Who is profiting from making all that money off of making all of that military equipment, off of losing some of those billions and they go into somebody's mysterious pockets somewhere? So we have things to address. At the end of this year, the beginning of next year, as the new administration, who may not be interested in your curiosity, but perhaps we need to be loud enough in our curiosity and desire for more equality to make an impression. I, for one, vote for a healthier environment. I'm not a fan of wild brush fires, raising temperatures, crazy weather systems, or polluted food with chemicals, polluted groundwater with fracking chemicals and radiation. These are important things that are so easy to ignore as we entertain ourselves through the holidays and beyond. Do you want to be right or do you want to be kind? I guess a lot of people would choose they want to be right. But what they lose in that choice is friendship, understanding, commonality, a way of communicating that doesn't create enemies. Because if you're right. You're going to make someone wrong. Just like when you need to win, that means you need to make someone lose. So that is another question. Do you want to win more than you want to heal? Do you want to win more than you want to heal? I say healing is winning because you're winning your best self when you allow yourself the time to process all of the injuries to our feelings of safety in the world, to our emotional sensitivity, to our sense of ourselves, even. You know, there are so many ways that we damage each other, that we harm each other, that we do not support each other, or we're even cruel with one another, insensitive, dehumanizing. One of them is by having a $7.25 an hour minimum wage. That should be $27 an hour minimum wage, not 15, 27. And yes, it would rearrange things. When we prioritize kindness, equality, and having enough for all, it rearranges things. Maybe our billionaires would only be millionaires, so what? Maybe we need to outlaw being billionaires. Having people so reprehensibly greedy that they choose to pay their employees so little so that they can make so much. That kind of lack of connection with humanity is sociopathic. So, yes, we do have a lot of sociopaths in our country. And what is sociopathy but a damaged child, a damaged inner child who's not willing to do the work? They just cover it over with more for me, more for me, more for me, more. And yeah, they may be so damaged that they don't care about other people, and they may never care about other people. But that's why we have governments, because governments are supposed to legislate against that kind of thing so that we have more for everyone, so that everybody in this country can be proud to be an American, not just the richest, but the poorest, who don't need to be as poor as they are. Okay, so do we want more love or do you want more hate? I like to say you were not born to hate. People really love to get all riled up about things and throw hate, throw shade at people, different people. Why do you want to have so much hate in your life? Why do you want to preach hate when you can preach love? Do you want more peace or more violence? So there are a lot of things we can do to reduce the amount of violence that we have in our culture. And one of them, having been a teacher and watch what the kids watch, is to not allow violent video games in the hands of our children. So many parents who really want to raise their kids right are making a very unconscious choice by buying their kids violent video games and letting them watch violent TV shows or misogynistic TV shows. What kind of a culture do we have when that's what goes through the minds of our children? I have children that I've been in school with that don't know the difference between playing a game and being in reality. They're too young. What you imagine so strongly is like being real to the mind. One child said to another, "I'm going to kill you. I've killed others." And he meant it. Not that he has killed other people. He's played video games where he's killed other people, and some of these video games are very real looking. Gives a student, a child, the experience of being able to do that. Who does that benefit? There is a benefactor. It is the war industry. That's who it benefits. When we can desensitize sensitive humans to be able to do the worst cruelty to other humans, to senselessly and unfeelingly kill others, they might be great soldiers to follow directions to do the same. So our country needs to protect its children, needs to protect them from the violence that is inherent in our culture. Inherent because it sells. It feeds that fight or flight fear mechanism that we have. When I say mechanism, I mean that so much of our country is living in fear. And because of that, we don't make rational decisions. We don't make rational decisions ever when we're in a state of fear. It's all reactive. And when you're in that reactive mode of self-preservation as the number one goal, you're not caring about other people. Doesn't matter if they're related to you or not. Doesn't matter if you used to really like them or not. That reactive fight or flight self-preservation mechanism kicks in, and we're not in our right mind. We're not in our heart. We are not able to empathize, especially kids raised with trauma, physical trauma, severe emotional trauma. It changes their brain because they have to survive, self-preserve. And that self-preservation instinct tends to shut down the empathic part of the brain. Maybe not in every circumstance, but if there's enough trauma, unhealed, unacknowledged, understood, then that's what prevails. And we have so many people in this country living in that kind of hellish reality where they feel unsafe, where they feel they can't trust anyone, where they feel they need to self-protect to the point where they're living in a self-fulfilling prophecy of negativity. How can we help those? Again, prevention would be helpful. Preventing people from severe suffering, economic suffering because of economic situations which are unnecessarily strident in this country, from role models that are violent and brutal, video games, TV shows, even commercials, or even popular people like presidents and the kinds of behaviors that they exhibit that are unstable members of society might emulate. So, what kind of peaceful society could we create? Because we don't really want to live through psychodrama, through others' trauma and pain, because that's what people do when they have such significant trauma in their lives. They tend to share that trauma. Misery likes company, right? Share that trauma, project it onto others, cause the same trauma in other people's lives, even having a high-minded idea that they're going to teach you what the world is really like in their world, in their experience. Or tear it all down because they're miserable, they want to die. Death by suicide, or death by police, or however people that choose to take out their actions on others, on innocent others, decide to leave their lives. I've asked a lot of questions that are challenging. You can ask yourself some gentler ones as well. Like, how much of myself can I love today? Or how can I honor myself on this day? Or what would be most nurturing to me today? And if you really dig deeply, it's probably not a thought of vengeance on another or even winning, being better than somebody else, because it's always a fear state. If you are truly secure in yourself, you don't need to compete. You don't need to be better than somebody else. You can be better than the you were yesterday, or what will soon be termed as last year. So what do you choose for yourself on this new moon? What intentions can you bring forward with you into the new year? What kind, and I say kind with a capital K, what kind of year can we create? We, not just you. How kind can we be with ourselves and with others? Because when we treat ourselves with kindness, with gentleness, with understanding, with patience, then we tend to treat others better as well. I am Reverend Montclair. This is Monday Church with Reverend Montclair. Today is December 30th, 2024. Set your intentions for the new year, and may they be beautiful. And may you walk in beauty into the new year, with beauty before you, with beauty behind you in the old year. May you find it and bring those memories forward with you, with beauty above you, with your ideas about the universe and the divine, with beauty below, with your connection with the earth and with the divinity there, and with beauty all around you. May you walk into this new year with courage, with patience, and with understanding. Much love to you on your journey into the new year, and leaving behind what needs to be left behind in the old year. Peace be to you.